Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are here on a Tuesday night slate, pretty small, but we do have some player props that we are into tonight for you guys. Do want to make sure you like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We are staying pretty hot with these player props already to begin the season, coming at you every single weekday. Also have our great game videos up. Got 2 of those up for you today on this little slate. Also want to make sure you head to thelines.com. That's where we have our great written content all season long for you, and our odds finder tool we have so you can make sure that you are shopping NBA lines to the best of your ability across these U.S. sportsbooks. Nate, let's get into our first of these player props for tonight's little Tuesday night slate here.
Yeah, Chris Paul hasn't really been looking to score through the first 3 games here for the Suns, but that should change here in a matchup with the Warriors. We'll see what happens in terms of the pace here. Pretty much opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of the Warriors playing real fast, Suns slowing it down. Suns are in their first of 6 home games here, and it's obviously a big one against the champs. You know, CP3 generally comes to play in this matchup, though, since he joined the Suns, averaging 15.7 points, to go along with 7.5 assists. Against Golden State, the usage has averaged out to 22%, but he's had big spikes when he has to score, 27%, 37% in a couple of those games. So I think Andrew Wiggins will be draped on Booker here throughout the game. Wiggins has kind of morphed into a shutdown force for the Warriors. He has the best defensive rating on the team right now. So I'm kind of interested in the Booker under 26.5 points or 36.5 PRA. And the CP3 over is pretty low for, I think, points and assists is what you go with here because he's, a double-digit assist threat right now. 22.5 is the number for that combined. You can get 13.5 points at plus odds. You can get 12.5 points at minus 120 FanDuel. I mean, he averages 11.5 assists at home since the start of January, along with 14.5 points. So definitely not outlandish here. Like I said, this season only 7.7 points in 3 games where they just didn't necessarily need his scoring or the matchup wasn't there for him to be so assertive. But the Warriors are playing real shoddy defense, Josh. I mean, especially that second unit is just terrible. I don't know if CP3 is going to stagger and get some minutes against the second unit, but the point is, yeah, he'll get to work on Steph or Clay while Booker has to deal with Wiggins. So definitely double-digit points and assists is a possibility. The double-doubles plus 185 and the double-double in a win, which I think you like the Suns to win at home here, plus 300. Don't hate those in terms of getting some extra juice.
Yeah, I don't hate any of that. Man, if he played with the second unit, that'd be sick. Because I was talking about in the game video for the Dubs that second unit is bad on defense right now, and Wiggs isn't on that second unit. A lot of what we saw last year was Wiggins and Poole with Clay coming in as well on a second unit that was like, well, damn, this is almost as good as our first. It just doesn't have Steph or Draymond. But that's just not the case right now. And so that would be wildly interesting. Either way, I was going to hit Chris Paul as well. We didn't even talk about this before we started recording. I was going to hit his points and assists as well. I think it's 13.5 is way down for him in the points column, even though, like you said, he has not been scoring at all this season. This doesn't seem like the game that he's going to sit out and watch idly by as they potentially lose, because he only shot the ball like 8 times against the Blazers and they lost that game. And it was kind of like, hey, dude, like we could use you to score too with that mid-range jumper, not just get 11 assists a game. So I think that's he's going to realize that tonight against a team that's, like you said, awful defensively right now, but playing at 110 pace with like 125 offensive rating. You got to put up points to hang with the Dubs, even if you're better on defense than the teams they've played so far. So we're going to move on to a guy I'm really happy to talk about, Mr. Christian Wood on the Mavs. We talked about liking him. I feel like there was some split thought behind him being on the Mavs this season before he started playing with them. And, you called it, he kind of came to the team really early on in the transaction process and the free agent signings and trades and all that. So, I think he was kind of forgotten, but in his first 2 with Dallas, he's already got 25 points a game and 10 boards, and he's barely playing, dude. He's playing like 24.5 minutes a game with those numbers. So he's scoring a point a minute. Talk about efficiency, 10 boards, 1 rebound every 2 minutes. Absolutely incredible. His usage rate while he's on the court is 35%. So his points and rebounds prop, I didn't even tell you guys, is 25.5, which I really like, going over on that for pretty much even money on FanDuel right now. At minus 102, the points themselves at 17.5 are even money. So you just get, that's plus 100 right there. Like I was saying, first two with Dallas, absolutely incredible. He also plays really well against New Orleans. who's not good on defense once again. And we talked about in the game video, if Zion plays, we do like the over in this one. Just as long as he plays, we like the over. If he doesn't play, feeling a lot better about that under. And if BI also doesn't play, definitely feeling good about that under. But they are really bad on defense regardless. And we know that the Mavs are going to slow things down and control the offense and still have the ball for a long time in this game. In 6 games versus New Orleans when he was with Houston for Christian Wood, we're talking 19 points a game, 10 boards in 31 minutes, right? He still hasn't even gotten 31 minutes this season. So I think he creates a huge matchup problem for them. I'll give you one more here. He and Luka, wonderful tandem. When they're both on the floor in a 2-man lineup, if you want to go ahead and check that out on advanced stats, we're talking 148 offensive rating with the two of them on the floor. So what else do you really want to know about how perfect of a sidekick Luka finally has in Mr. Christian Wood?
Yeah, that's why I don't get why people were saying the Mavs are going to be worse this year when they add such a dynamic pick and roll partner. And yeah, you pointed out the usage rate. It's so consistent what Dallas is going to do, right? It's call up Christian Wood if he's on the floor with Luka, and we're going to run pick and roll and spread you out and shoot threes. And Nola's not good at defending either of those things, the 3-point line or in the paint. Joe Val, you might be forced into playing big minutes here if Zion's not good to go. If Zion is good to go, I mean, he's going to be a little more tentative than usual, and he's not a great defender anyway. So I think, yeah, Wood should have no problem getting around 20 points again. And then, yeah, there's barely any rebounds needed for a big man to get over that mark. Maybe you'll even see a few more minutes since Dallas has, because of this matchup, they could use him out there. I am going to take an under here. I know it's a little scary, and frankly, in the NBA, it's easier when you have this many options to just keep taking overs to identify the ones you want. But if you are feeling spicy here, Cade Cunningham under 31.5 points, rebounds, assists against Washington, which he hasn't reached yet this year. I mean, he's been right on it with 30, 29 in terms of his combined stats. And really, I mean, but the home road splits I'm looking at here, Detroit on the road here, and in his career, Cade averaging 2.7 fewer points, 16, and 1.4 fewer assists, 4.9, on the road with a slightly lower usage rate. Now playing alongside Jaden Ivey takes a little bit of the ball handling responsibilities away from him. And it's just Washington's early season defense, which, if you guys recall, was lights out in the first month last year, too. I mean, just number 1 3-point D. This year, they're sagging in more and not giving you anything easy. Number 2 in paint points, number 3 in assists, and number 3 in field goal percentage allowed. So I don't think the assists are really going to be there for Cade in terms of getting in there. And I mean, I think Washington will be able to identify the shooter. It's not plural shooters. It's just Bojan on Detroit. So I don't think that'll be an easy assist either. Washington's not giving up a ton of rebounds. They play at a relatively slow pace. So 19.5 points straight up is intriguing as well. But I could see Cade getting 20 points, but not getting the peripheral stats to get you over this total for PRA.
Yeah, I think that's what you're going to have to bank on, dude, because like Cade is he's a ball handler. He's a guy who's able to lead an offense, so he'll have the ball in his hands plenty. And I think, I actually watched a bit of their last game where he really needed to kind of come in and score for them to hang around. And like he did, right? He didn't really show up in the first half. He was more looking to dime. But I think once you start putting, the onus on him to score, which I think he feels this season, he's probably their second best 3-point shooter, at least on that starting lineup. So I do see the ability for him to score, but you're probably a little bit more right on in terms of the peripheral stats not being quite as prevalent for him in a game that I think that Washington's D is pretty legit. They've sold out for 3-and-D and scoring threes, and they're pretty good so far. So let's finish things off here with Andrew Wiggins, Wiggy, since there's really no more Iggy on the Warriors. He is on the team, but he's not really playing. So we can give Wiggy the names to Wiggins. 22.5 points and rebounds. Look, the dude picked up basically where he left off in the playoffs, and they're still trusting him just as much as they did in the playoffs. And he's probably their second best player right now, as he was for the entirety of that playoffs, mostly because, look, he's not their most talented offensive player, although he can score in a variety of ways, more so than the other guards that you obviously think of in Clay and Jordan Poole. But at the same time, his defense keeps him on the floor. And that's something we were talking about, is he's got to guard Booker. He's going to be guarding Booker. Booker's going to get 39 to 40 minutes. Wiggs is going to get 39 to 40 minutes. He's going to be on the floor as soon as Booker is. So, with that in mind, I think you love the fact that he's going to continue to get the usage. I would take the points and boards. I would take the points at 16.5 at -110. I think I would rather have that just because of the better odds than the rebounds and points, which gets you -120. So, but in 3 games this year so far, we know what he's done: 22.5 points, about 6.5 boards, and it's his shooting, 52% from the field, man. That's so great to see when you see that for him. And that's going to lead to him being able to do more. They will have to sag off of him a little bit finally because he's shooting well enough from deep to be able to, earn that respect and get a little bit of room for himself to use his athleticism and get to the rim. Wild stat that you were able to provide for me: double-digit scoring in all 25 career games that he's played versus the Suns. That's a lot. That's a lot of games to always have double digits, and especially when he's been on some bad teams in the past and you've seen him have some sort of slink away games. It just hasn't happened. So his last 10 versus them, almost 21 points a game versus the Suns and 5 boards. So there you go right there with your prop, easily over 20. And I just think that he's too important to this team to not get the minutes. And the way that he's playing on offense, man, that 52% field goal percentage for someone who's really getting the ball predominantly out on the wing and in space is very, very impressive.
Yeah, and the minutes follow rebounds, and so far in 3 games, he's got a 10.7% rebounding rate, which is, his career is 7%. It's way up from last year, and it's what we saw in the playoffs. Like you said, I think he had a couple 15 board games in those playoffs because he was out there guarding Luka and just out there getting tons of minutes. He's also been their best individual defender, 106 defensive rating. Draymond has not been that. He's 111. The team is at 110. So yeah, he's going to guard Book. He's going to be scoring because Clay is yet to find a true rhythm here. And he's basically averaging 22.5 points through 3 games. And for a guy who's then grabbing a tenth of his team's total rebounds, I think combining the two of them is easy money. That's why it's -120.
Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting. He's a different style of player than they've had being their second option for a long time, right? It was either Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson coming off screens for Klay, running around. Wiggs is doing a lot less of that. He's getting the ball in space, going one-on-one because they know they can't double him out there. And I think he'll continue to get it. Like that, you said, that usage rate near 23% for them. That's great. That's Klay Thompson numbers. And so he's going to be in that second scoring role for them for this whole season, I'm pretty sure. So that is all the time we have for you guys. We're going to look to continue to stay about 70%, 72% so far on the early
4-0 last night.
And 4-0 last night, baby. So we're continuing to stay hot. Look, I mean, it's not going to be the entire season. Definitely want to stay with us for the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to stay on this track, I think. But then we're going to look to stay closer, 55, 60%. We're still going to be being winners all season with these props, baby. So make sure to like and subscribe. Continue to follow along with us. We will be back with you guys on a pretty nice Wednesday night slate here in the NBA tomorrow. So until we see you next, happy betting.